Hi everyone. I know it's been a minute since I uploaded a video, but today I wanted to talk about Sarah Boone, and she's going to be sentenced tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to, along with a lot of other people, I'm sure. If you don't know who Sarah Boone is, she's the woman who zipped her boyfriend into a suitcase and then filmed him while he was begging for his life and was very belligerent, obnoxious to him, malicious, downright evil. To me, my personal, I just think that's a horrible way to go. I get claustrophobia, something awful. I don't even like watching movies like with submarines in them. Um, I don't like it when I'm watching a TV show or a movie and a bunch of people get on an elevator. And I just think this poor guy, it was just awful. And this happened in February of 2020. So she was just convicted. In a few months, it would be 5 years. She's just delayed, delayed, delayed. And she went through 8 different court appointed attorneys. Well, not all of them were court appointed. There was one attorney who came, she lives in Orlando, in Orange County, and there was one attorney early on who came up from Miami, and he was going to represent her pro bono. And he worked for like 2 years and got her medical records, her phone analyzed, all of that. And it was just days before the trial, and he withdrew as her counsel, citing irreconcilable differences. And then there were 3 attorneys who could not represent her due to conflict of interest. George Torres is the man that whose life she took in the suitcase, and she also had him arrested every chance she could get. And those some of those attorneys had represented George, so they couldn't represent her, they couldn't defend her. So not all of the 8 attorneys were because of her, but she anyway, she had 8 attorneys. And just to give you a quick background, I'm not going to go into all of it with you because that would be a very long video. One of the things that I just wanted to talk about, the Judge Kranig, he did on June 28th, he said, no more, I'm not, because what she did, her pattern was to an attorney would be appointed for her, and then of course once the new attorney came on, then they would ask for a continuance and they would get more time, because yes, they need time to go through all the discovery and the evidence and figure out what's going on. And these people would work really hard, and then it would come down to it where it was going to be close to time for the trial, and then they would withdraw from the case, and another attorney would be appointed for her, and then this new attorney would ask for more time, and they were given more time, and this went on and on and on. And the case was continued 16 times. And I truly think Sarah Boone thought they would just keep appointing attorneys to her. She just, yeah, it was working for her. So why wouldn't she think that? Well, finally, Judge Kranig just said no. And each time this happened, I do want to point out, each time it happened where an attorney withdrew and another one would be appointed, the judge always told Sarah, there's not an unlimited number of attorneys for you, and if you can't get along with this one, you may have to go pro se, which means to represent yourself, which she says that she did not want to do. But on June 28th, Judge Cranick had had enough and said he did allow her last attorney who was appointed to withdraw, and he told Sarah that she was going to have to represent herself. So she was basically the ninth attorney on the case, and she did everything but ask for a continuance. She didn't ask for any more time. She right away made 5 motions, and she wanted money to pay for psychologists. She wanted money. I can't remember now what they were all for. And she wanted an investigator, but she had an investigator from the very beginning who had been working the case. So she did get money for the investigator. But the judge told her, you can't just say, I need money to depose witnesses. We need to know what witness, how many days is it going to take to depose them. You got to be very specific. And one of the things that she found out when she was pro se is there's such a thing as standby counsel. And she wrote her motion asking for standby counsel was 29 pages, handwritten, which she had written hundreds of letters, handwritten, and there's hundreds of pages where she just disparaged everybody, her attorneys, the judge, like called them buffoons and just terrible names, just a dud. She called one attorney a dud. She asked Judge Cranick what his cut was from the professional YouTubers covering her case. She's something else. She's one of these people who thinks that she's really smart, and she wants you to know that she's the smartest person in the room. But as soon as she opens her mouth, she proves that she's not. One of those kind of people. But anyway, she wrote a 29-page motion for a standby counsel and wanted the JAC to pay for it. And the guy from JAC said, no, that's not what standby counsel is. In her 29-page motion, she wanted the standby counsel to answer phone calls and type her letters in her motions, and she basically thought she was going to get a secretary. But a standby counsel is when, say somebody like that Telus guy who was actually an attorney decided to represent himself, and the judge allows them, but they have a standby person that sits at the table with them. So if in the middle it becomes too much, that standby's ready to step in and take over. And Sarah's case wasn't that. And the judge explained to her, and this judge is a perfect judge for Sarah Boone. He's so patient, and he just she could not ruffle him and get him upset. I'm sure she frustrated him, and he explained to her about the standby counsel, and that no, standby counsel was not a constitutional right, because she was saying that it was unfair, her constitutional rights were being tromped on. And anyway, so this is while she's going pro se. Well, one of the things that she had done is she had written an handwritten ad for an attorney. It says, inmate seeks attorney, looking for a prosperous challenge, ready for your close-up on national television. Are you zealous with a side of keen? Show the world who you are. And she asked the judge if he would post this like in the break room. I don't know if you can read that or if it's backwards. You know how the camera does sometimes. So she wrote this, and it's kind of impressive, this handmade ad that she wrote. And sure enough, an attorney from Milton, Florida saw this on court TV, and he answered her ad. And at the end of August, he showed up and said he would represent her. And he went into court, and of course, the first thing he asked for was a continuance. Well, in the judge's order, when he said that Sarah was not going to be appointed any more attorneys, that she could hire her own, but no more court-appointed attorneys. And he said the trial date was set for October 7th, and nothing outside of extraordinary circumstances would change that date. And he said that includes the hiring of counsel for Miss Boone. So he wrote it right in the order that if she does find somebody to represent her, she's not going to get any more time. The trial date was set for October 7th. Well, come to find out, Mr. Owens has been a defense attorney since 1986. He came in and told the judge that he was asking for a continuance, just a small continuance, judge. It just might be 1 or 2 months. We might go into the new year. This was like at the end of August. He said 1 or 2 months, and then, we might go into the new year, might be 3 or 4 months into the new year, and we'll be ready to go to trial. Well, he's talking like, at that point, he's talking March, April 2025. And we all know that Sarah would have gotten rid of him long before then. And the judge said no. He had to say no. Like, if he would have agreed to that continuance after saying that specifically in his order, there's no way. He had to say no. Anyway, so they go through and they have all the trial and everything. And October 7th comes and they're starting jury selection. And that was the beginning of Hurricane Milton. It's like Sarah conjured up the hurricane. Sorry, I just needed some water there. So the trial was continued until October 14th, which it was a good decision. They had talked about, because they had brought in all of these, they'd brought in like 200 people to get their jury from, and instead of going ahead and picking a jury and then the people worrying about what was going to happen to their property during the hurricane, the judge went ahead and sent them home and told them to come back on the 14th. It was a week later. It took them 3 days to get the jury, and the trial started on I think it was the 17th or 18th, and October 25th is when they had their verdict. Well, the first day of jury selection first day of the trial was October 7th. And on the record, the judge asked Sarah if she was aware that the prosecution had a plea deal on the table. And the plea deal was for manslaughter, a 15-year sentence. And what they do in Florida, they don't have probation, but if you spend 85% of your sentence, and you have good behavior and whatnot, that after serving 85% of your sentence, then you're done and you go home. And she's already been incarcerated since February of 2020. This is October of 2024. So she's been there 4 years and 8 months, almost 5 years. And if she would have accepted this deal, somebody has figured it out that was better at math than I am. She would have been out and done, like no probation, no nothing, after like 5-6 years. It wasn't very long at all because of the time that she's already spent. And you can tell she does not like Judge Kranick. She's so mad at him. After he made her go pro se, she was in court with him, and she actually told him that his decision to take away her constitutional right to counsel was malformed and based on his ignorance. This is what she told the judge. Like, she has no clue. Like, why would you say that to your judge? And I don't think she realizes that the judge and the court are the one and the same. Anyway, she's something else. But so Owens comes in, James Owens. He comes in at the end of August. October 7th, the trial starts. The prosecution offers her the deal of a lifetime. A manslaughter plea, 15 years. She could be out in just a short amount of time. And Judge Kranick asked her, do you accept it or reject it? And her eyes, she looked at the judge and looked down, and you could tell she was so mad. She just hates that judge, and she just said reject. And just like, for some reason she thinks that if she could just tell her story, that we'll all believe it and like owe her an apology. Anyway, but anyway, you could just tell she is so mad at the judge about that. So he said, fine, okay. So the trial gets started, but before they get going, Mr. Owens, her attorney, jumps up and says, Your Honor, my client, she's been incarcerated all this time, and she would like to have somebody come in and each morning of the trial and do her hair for her. She needs to have her hair styled. And could she have a makeup artist? And also she needs some clothes that fit her. So we need to send a tailor to the jail so they can get her measurements so we know what sizes. And seriously, the judge just was like, and he was asking the judge, and he said, should I make a motion? And the judge said, yes, I think you should make a motion. And he did. He made a motion for Sarah to have a hairstylist come in and take care of her hair which they've released her reports from the jail, her activity, and anytime she got in trouble. And she was always taking out the clippers, which sound like they were dog clippers or clippers you'd cut a man's hair with. And her hair just became this horrible haircut, like nothing cute about it. I don't even know if she would have been allowed to have a hairstylist, what they could have done with it. But I'm sure she wanted like a weave probably put in and some highlights or something. And Judge Cranick, when she was pro se, had made arrangements for her to. There's a woman in the public defender's office who will get street clothes because they don't want to prejudice the jury by seeing her come in her shackles and handcuffs every day. And but Sarah didn't want that. Her attorney was gonna provide her clothes. And normally what they do is they take the clothes to the jail. Once the inmate gets there, then they put on their street clothes at the jail. But Sarah wanted them brought to the jail beforehand. I don't know why. And that's what they did. But the first morning of trial, Sarah wouldn't leave the jail because they didn't have shoes for her. And the only shoes she had were her slides that she made many mention of her slides in her letters. So then the next motion was that Sarah needs to be able to wear her dress shoes in court. And the judge said, yes, if you can get them here. And then the judge said he didn't care about the makeup. He had no, that was between her and the jail. And there was one of the bailiffs there said that makeup is contraband. It's not allowed in the jail. They can't buy it at the commissary. So makeup would not be allowed. And I think it goes without saying she was not provided a hairdresser to come in and do her hair every morning. Somebody did get some clothes for her. I don't know that they got the clothes that didn't seem like they put much thought into them. They were ill-fitting. One day she wore a black suit, and the suit was all different blacks. They weren't the same black. Then she asked the next day, Owens gets up and says, Judge, my client doesn't have any blood sugar issues, but she would like some snacks. She would like a couple of Pop-Tarts, 5 mints, a bag of chips, a couple of cookies, and she just needs that throughout the day to keep her going. And again, the bailiff steps up and said that there's a bag lunch that every inmate from the county jail gets when they're in court. She goes downstairs and eats with the other people who are on trial, and that there's a sandwich, a piece of fruit, a bag of chips, and some cookies. So the judge just said no, she can't have her snacks. But why such a specific amount in the 5 mints? Well, then somebody released her inmate behavioral report. She had been fighting with them at the jail about taking snacks. She had just bought a commissary order, and she bought it to take to court with her, and they said, no, you can't do that. And Sarah got mad and told them at the jail, I'll just have the judge write an order. and she was mad about her uniform. She said that it was too big and it was size small, but she wanted an extra small. And I think this whole thing about having a tailor come in and take measurements was to prove to the jail that she needed a smaller uniform. But all of these, and the same thing with the makeup and the hair, all of that was things where she'd gotten into arguments with them at the jail, and she said, which of course they reported all of it right back to the judge, that, well, I'll just have the judge make an order. And that's just kind of the way she is, the way she's been. And all along she said terrible things about George, the victim. She said terrible things about his family, about his mother, and come to find out these text messages were all shown. She was just awful. She's an awful, evil woman, and she's going to be sentenced in the morning. And Judge Kranig, I know, will follow the law, and he's not going to go wild and tell her that she's the most evil woman on the planet. But I hope he addresses some of these issues, because it's been almost 5 years of craziness. I'm going to link a couple of channels down below for you guys to go watch. They've done a much better job covering this case than me. And I'll tell you, sometimes I've just busted out laughing. Like, I was in the grocery store listening. I had my earbuds in and just laughing. And it was over a comment that they had made about during the interrogation. And I couldn't tell someone, well, I'm listening to an interrogation where a woman zipped her boyfriend up in a suitcase. And none of my friends will talk to me about any of this. I think I've told you guys that before. But anyway, I'll leave a couple of channels that it's really worth it to go listen to them, because they just really did a good job. And there's one channel that she had songs made, and it was pretty funny. But she will be sentenced tomorrow. I hope that she gets life without parole. Like I said, Florida doesn't have probation, so whatever she's sentenced with. I bet, though, I think Sarah's going to go into jail tomorrow and tell Judge Kranig, I'll take that plea deal now. And when he tells her no, she's going to tell him how unfair it is. And I bet anything that's what she's going to do. What do you think? What do you guys think she's going to get? Have you been following this? Do you think that she'll ask for the plea deal? Do you think she's figured out that the judge and the court are one and the same? Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to keep this short. I know it went long, but I would just really be honored if you would subscribe and thumbs up and all of that kind of stuff, and let me know what you think. Anyway, and I have been working really hard. I've gotten so much information on Koberger, and yesterday my daughter was here and she brought me a new laptop. So it's not just going to be an old lady with an iPad anymore. It'll be an old lady with a laptop. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye.